So about a year ago, I had a friend of mine that I used to work with at Countrywide mentioned that he had worked at a place with another guy, another mutual friend from Countrywide, and they were working in notes. And he originally came to me about getting a job working in solar, and he started talking about notes. And I was like, hold on, forget, we can talk about the job later, but let's talk about this. This is interesting. And he started talking about, performing notes, non-performing notes, and how they did modifications and this and that. And I just thought like, oh, wow, this is really interesting, because this is like right up my alley, what I understand. And so I thought, at that point, I thought this isn't going to be very hard at all. I'm just going to like figure it out, get into it, And my friend couldn't really tell me, like, because I was trying to like, okay, so how do you figure out exactly like what to bid? And he didn't really understand, even though he had worked on the back end collecting and all that stuff, doing modifications, he didn't really understand how to bid on it or how it was. And I talked to a couple of people trying to figure that out, and nobody could really tell me. It was a lot of like, oh yeah, you just bid on a percentage of the UPB. So I'm like, okay, I get that. But how does it didn't make sense? And a lot of people couldn't really give me a straight answer on that. It was just bid on it. You bid low and then you sell high. Okay, yeah, all right. But so it didn't really make sense until I saw that video where I was like, that's it. Of course, you have a specific yield or return in mind, and then you back your way into what the purchase price is going to be. That made perfect sense.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's definitely a little more confusing than what I would, with my background in mortgages. I thought like, oh yeah, I'm just going to dive right in and figure this out. But yeah, it's a little different. There's a whole world in notes that doesn't seem to like follow the whole yield or specific return.
Isn't that interesting with that kind of background? And it was
you would think the math would be there, right?
Yeah. I thought it was just a mortgage calculator. You whip it out and but yeah, it took quite some time, and I talked to a lot of people.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
We're hopefully going to change the world with the theories out there, and whoever's teaching it hopefully will convert them as well.
Yeah.
So one of some of the things that you shared in the class was really interesting to me is that like while you're Countrywide, which those who don't know, go watch Big Short. You can find all about Countrywide, right? That you every week you walked in and your origination got easier and easier.
Yeah. And that was actually even like after I left Countrywide when I was running my own mortgage company, because then you had wholesale reps or account managers show up and they're pushing their product basically like, hey, we're from so-and-so bank. These are our underwriting guidelines. And every week practically they got smaller and smaller. Like you would go from, and you would be able to lend more. That was the crazy thing. Like, your LTV got higher and higher to the point where you were at 100% financing. And they went from wanting to see income documentation on everything, pay stubs and W-2s, to not wanting to see pay stubs or W-2s, but show us a bank statement that they have money at least. And then it went to, don't show us the bank statement, just tell us how much they have. So they got smaller and smaller and smaller. And eventually there really weren't any guidelines.
I wonder what happened.
Yeah.
Why everything kind of changed.
Right.
Which sounds totally insane. Just curious, at that time, did you think this is dangerous, or was it just like, whatever?
At the time, everybody was so into that values will just keep, values were just increasing and increasing. Yeah. And everybody had the idea, oh, you'll just refinance. You just bail yourself out. Okay, great. You're in this pay option arm, which is where you pay 1% of the interest, but your rate is 6%. So your balance is actually growing every month. Pretty scary, right? But you'll just refinance. That's like it. We used to always show everybody a 30-year fixed.
Yeah.
But it got to the point that, here's a 30-year fixed. Okay, so here's the 3% interest only, and the payment is a third of what it is on the 30-year fixed. No homeowner would ever touch that 30-year fix. It got to the point where you could try to push this, but you wouldn't do any loans. You had to like have the coolest, newest product. And that's, so everything was just, I think everything was just based on that the values were going to keep rising.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Huh.
So it's weird that you came on the scene with very little education because you leaned on your history, your knowledge, your experience to kind of get you into a sector that you partially knew already.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you dove in with us head first. What was your first impression of this idea of the pathway of class, homework, taking, accountability kind of thing, and having that kind of conversation? What was your first impression of walking in?
I loved it because there's structure to it. First we started talking about a buy box, about creating your buy box and what do you want to have in it and this and that. Super structured, right? Like and that was the first time I really heard about a buy box. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I actually heard about it first, I think on I saw a video with you guys in Candance.
Yes.
You guys did. And she mentioned about you guys were talking about a buy box. So once you guys started talking about that, putting that together felt really like, okay, this is structured. This is actually, have intentions here of what I want to do. So that, and then from there, I mean, obviously we started looking at buy box, filtering tape based on your buy box, not just looking at all these, loans just because they're on the tape, filtering it down so you actually look at what it is you're interested in and what you're, which was really cool. And then just going from there, the whole calculator, building your own calculator, putting it together, and I love that whole idea. I mean, there's so much more that eventually I want to help, with you guys' help, build that out.
It's easy to run a calculation on one single asset on a financial calculator, right? That the yield is a very easy, quick formula.
Yeah.
But working on non-performing or even performing with the possibility of it going non-performing, that calculator is completely different from an easy, simple time value financial calculator, right? Can you share a little about what you learned with building a non-performing bid calculator that can automate your bidding process?
Yeah. I mean, the whole the fact that it takes into account expenses like foreclosure expenses, and you really start focusing on worst case scenarios. Mm-hmm. And the scenarios that are most likely to happen right off the bat, because you have everything spread out. I love that. I mean, it takes into account all those, potential foreclosure, insurance,
time frames, right? Foreclosure time frames, like Steve.
Time frames, and then backing right back into the specific rate that you're looking for, or return that you're looking for, yield that you're looking for. So that it's just so structured. It's not just sitting there with a loan calculator in your hand and just here's what I want, what I'm hoping, and deducting the servicing fee out of the payment, and then backing into it to see what the actual real rate is. Yeah. Because that right off the bat, I mean, I'm a mortgage guy, and I didn't think of that. Like, of course, that whatever it is, $35, $30, whatever it is, you deduct that out of the payment. That's going to change your rate of return immediately. Yeah. So I love that, the whole structure of the calculator. And there's a lot more that I need to learn there. I mean, net present value and all that stuff, like really understanding it, wrapping my head around it. But
IRR, right? People calculate everything on yield and whatnot. We discussed in class that not all loans go 30 years, right? You may not have a loan go for 20 years. They may only last for 7. And you have to project that what happens if, and you can sell a loan in 5 years. So it's and reinstatement.
That's one thing I haven't really taken into account. What if they reinstate? Stuff like that. I mean, the possibility of that.
It could be a great thing. It could be a terrible thing.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So when you're building that calculator, you're right. You can constantly add on. There's nothing fixed about it. It morphs as you grow. But having that mindset and that addition to do it, like you can do it for multiple assets. We're showing you how you can go by row and pop up, and just change it and automatically calculate all your information within seconds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've kind of right now, mine's like a hybrid of, it's like got Nate's calculator, but then it's got Dave's, being able to pull from different, you can have like 15 different loans and you just change the number and all of a sudden all the numbers change, and which is really cool.
Yeah. That's awesome.
If you didn't take this class, this class, where do you think you'd be with your note investing?
I feel like I would be in the same spot where I just realized it's about bidding on a specific yield, but the actual structure of it, because that's where I start to get confidence, is the structure, laying it out a certain way, the buy box, and then from there filtering the tape, and then making sure you have everything covered, all the different worst case scenarios based on a certain rate that you want, or a yield that you want, rate of return that you want.